I can see why this movie was released on Christmas, because they give you a lot. Good God. Okay, so I just saw Wonder Woman 1984, or is it Wonder Woman 84? Either, wait, you know what I saw. This was released on HBO Max. I think, not the first one, because there was The Witches, but certainly one of the bigger ones to be released on HBO Max as well as in theaters. And there's been a lot of build-up for this, obviously, and it's released on Christmas Day. And for those wondering if I'm going to review Soul, I'm going to do that for a Disney-December, so don't worry about that, that's coming too. Yeah, there is... I'm still going to be processing this a little bit, so just before I go into a ton that there is to talk about with this movie, I'm sure you just want to know, did I like it? Do I recommend it? Did I hate it? What? Just quick cliff notes. I liked it, but just barely, man. There is just, like, this movie's bonkers at times, but then there's stuff that's like really, really good and makes sense, but this needed like one more rewrite or like it just needed a rewrite. I was gonna say like maybe, you know, trimmed down, edited down, but it's like no, that I can already see the problems with it, and part of it is the advertising gives you an idea it's going to be one thing, and it's not. Here's, again, I won't go into spoilers with this, but here's what the advertising is making this film look like. Wonder Woman is back in 1984, and there's this woman that's interested in her, played by Kristen Wiig. And she thinks she's really cool and everything, thinks she makes a friend, but then something goes wrong. She's betrayed somehow, and she wants revenge, and so she decides to turn against Wonder Woman, and she's gonna experiment on herself and become this monster, you know, and you're gonna get Cheetah, you know. It's a Cheetah? Or, yeah, right? I don't know a ton about Wonder Woman comics, I'll just give you a heads up. But I know that's one of the few villains I recognize, because it's like her in the cheetah outfit, and then later she's like this cheetah woman with like these cat eyes and sharp teeth, and like this really, really cool villain, and that's gonna be the main villain. Oh, and there's this side character that Pedro Pascal is playing. It is completely switched. Like, Cheetah is in this, and they do give her screen time. It's not like she has nothing, but she is not the main villain. Pedro Pascal is the, hopefully I'm saying that right, is the main villain in this. And it is about, what's interesting about that, if you told me, you know, one of the few Wonder Woman villains that, you know, I recognize, this cool cheetah woman that can, you know, has these claws and can climb up the walls and everything like that, is gonna be sort of the less interesting stuff, and this dreamstone that can grant wishes, it was gonna be really interesting. I'd say you're crazy, but it's mostly around this artifact that you grab it, you make a wish, and the wish comes true. It's about this guy who's kind of this con artist who is looking for it. He finds it, and I guess I don't want to go into spoiler, but he utilizes it the most he can. I guess that's the most I could say about it. And it is, like, most of that is surprisingly done very well. And what I like about the villain in this is that it's a villain where you go, that's a smart idea. Like, in all these movies where somebody has this powerful device, they always do something stupid with it. And you always think to yourself, well, if I had that, I would do this, or maybe that. And this guy does it, because this thing only grants one wish. And the wish he makes is a very smart wish for what he's looking for. You know, he's going to be looking for power and control, you know, as much as possible and everything. But it's kind of, they even reference the monkey paw in this, where every time you wish for something, you know, something is taken away. So that's the main villain. That's the main plot. And just how it spirals more and more out of control with this device. And again, the monkey's paw, we've all heard this story, but the way they utilize it, and the way it gets more and more out of control, and it gets bigger, and it affects the world more and more, pretty much just from this one guy's wish, and how cleverly he utilizes it, I really like. And it was, so much information is thrown at you in this, and I surprisingly follow that just well enough. And again, when it gets to the end and I'm like, man, I don't know if this is working, and you kind of get to what it's all building up to, I feel like it just barely came through. Like, yes, okay, I'm glad I saw this. I'm glad I saw this movie. But there's a lot of weird shit in this movie. A lot of it, like the tone. So, okay, for the first 40 minutes, you're watching a Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. It says Wonder Woman, but everyone acts like they're in a Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, and that's fine for Sam Raimi Spider-Man. But if you're gonna say, hey, this is the Wonder Woman, the sequel to Wonder Woman, the World War I movie that, yes, is odd. It's still a woman coming from this island that swings a lasso and stuff like that, but, you know, it shows you the dark, harsh grittiness of war and, you know, losing people and, you know, the inspiring scene where she goes into no man's land on the battlefield. I mean, just still, oh my God, just heart-racing, amazing moment. It's not that. There are some very emotional scenes, some powerful scenes, and it is around the idea of that Dreamstone. But everyone, including Gal Gadot, surprisingly, acts a little off in this. That they're all a little too cartoony. Even the villain played by Pedro Pascal, like, he just barely pulls it off, because when things do start to crumble, I mean, you feel like he looks like he's falling apart, and he looks like he's just been awake for hours. Like, he doesn't even sleep, and he's just trying to find ways to keep utilizing this. And so he does really work. And it's one of those where if you, like, really analyze the technicals of it, I'm sure you could find fault with the whole Dreamstone thing. But for me, it just, like, I followed it. I thought it was pretty clever, and I thought sort of the message and idea at the end was really good. But on top of that, you have Chris Pine is back. Since you know the plot, you can guess how he comes back, and what's gonna happen from that. But regardless, he's back. It's in the 80s. And there's a lot of kind of like goofy scenes of like, which again, I know it's Wonder Woman, a woman who dresses in red, white, and yellow and swings around a lasso that glows and people have to tell the truth and everything and can reflect bullets with it. I get it. Of course it's gonna be silly. This is really zany though. This isn't just silly. This is wacky. This is very wacky. And Gal Gadot, for, I want to say at least 1/3 of the movie, like, she does not feel 100% in it. She's not bad, but there's times where I'm like, man, I should be feeling something here. I should be, like, emotionally torn apart by what she's saying and what she's doing. And it doesn't always look like she's kind of there, like she's processing what she's saying, if you know what I mean. Like, she'll say the lines and, you know, it's like, okay, well, I don't think you're lying or anything, but at the same time, like, there's scenes where I feel like, you know, she should just be, like, you know, just at the edge of, like, you know, cracking or just holding it together, and she just kind of looks like she's, no, I'm the superhero, I'll do my thing, sure, if I save the day and stuff. But with that said, there's still 2/3 of the performance. That's totally fine. And she's very charming. She's very cool. But like I said, that 1/3 does kind of shine through at times, especially during a lot of the really important emotional moments. You know, she makes this big speech at the end, and I'm just watching it like, no, I'm not. Like, the words you're saying are very important, but I don't believe you believe it, you know what I mean? I don't believe you're just saying this, you know, just on the cusp of losing everything, and you're, you know, you're saying these powerful words, you know, and putting them out there in the universe. I'm just like, nah, like, I wasn't buying it. But there's still 2/3 of the movie where she's kicking ass, and it looks cool. But then there's stuff like, and you see this in the trailer, you know, the invisible jet is in the movie, and when it's there, it's cool. There's a really neat scene where they fly through fireworks, which is, you know, a cool scene, but the way this movie's trying to do too much, because the way they try to say the invisible jet is a thing is so out of nowhere, and just where the hell did that come from, that they do kind of reference in the last movie, but it's just suddenly, hey, Wonder Woman can do this now, and just in the split moment, she can suddenly do it, and it's like, what the hell was that? And there's a lot of scenes like that. Suddenly the, like, oh, what's that armor? Well, there's this long, complicated story about blah, 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 and they just kind of flash by it really quick. There's just a lot of moments where I feel like, man, if they could explore that more, that would really work. And so when we get to the emotional moments where she's wearing the armor, I feel like I should be like, yeah, like I'm in it, and I'm not, because I'm trying to remember like all the other 20 million things going on in this movie. One of them being Kristen Wiig as Cheetah in this, and it's not a surprise. I'm sure you put together. You don't really see her as Cheetah until the end. I thought she looked bad, but, like, I don't know. I guess I just thought, like, and I don't know anything about this character. Again, I just know there's a woman that wore a cheetah outfit, and at some point becomes, like, a cheetah lady, like this cat lady, whatever, you know, like, half cheetah, half woman. And whenever I saw her as the half cheetah, half woman, like, she looked scary. Like, she had the cat eyes, she had the sharp teeth, she had the whiskers, and the crazy hair. I'm like, man, I can't wait for a film version of that. And she doesn't look good, man. Like, the CG doesn't look good. The makeup doesn't look good. But, so, her story in this starts off kind of as the main story and then kind of gets sidetracked and then kind of comes back. And again, I'm with it just enough. Especially because they're making it look like the reason she's gonna turn bad it's just because she's popular, you know, it's like part of the wish she made. And it's not. It ties into what she's sacrificing, which again, almost everything that ties into the Dreamstone is actually pretty well thought out. Surprisingly, you would think that'd be the dumbest element. But again, when you see what it builds up to, and you see her as the cheetah lady and everything, I just didn't care. She didn't look that cool. When she jumps around, it looks very fake. The makeup on her, like, just kind of looks like Gozer. But not as good. Even Gozer had the cool red eyes. I mean, I think she just had, like, normal eyes. I mean, just imagine those creepy cat eyes and how cool that'd be. But she has, like, just two little fangs, and it's like, I thought it was pretty lame. And that could have been, like, so creepy. But, so, you have all these moments that are tapped upon. You know, there's another element about her flying, trying to learn how to fly, and I'm thinking like, well, that'd be cool to see her trying to learn how to do this, and even when she does kind of get it down, it's like, it's not exactly flying, it's kind of using the lasso as well. There's one scene where she uses the lasso to, like, grab onto lightning and swings around it. It's like, that's really cool. I'd love to see that explored more, and it's just kind of said in a sentence or two. So I feel like there's a lot of ideas in this movie, and they're not bad ideas, but it's 2.5 hours long, and it feels 2.5 hours long. Wonder Woman is in the beginning of the movie, you know, just has a little thing where, like, she saves some people at a mall. Again, very corny. She literally looks at a kid, gives her a wink, and the kid winks back. And it's not like just a little wink like that. I mean, it's like a huge cartoony wink. But whatever. Things are good, and we're gonna see everything go bad. And I like the fact they say why, because everyone got the impression, I know I did, that from the first Wonder Woman movie to Batman v Superman, that, okay, well, World War I happened, and then she just stayed out of the limelight, didn't do anything until Doomsday came in, and they're saying no, they're backtracking on that in a good way. It's that, no, she was fighting crime and saving people and stuff. She was just knocking out the security cameras or telling everybody shh, and there's some reports about her and stuff, but it's like she's just so good at, like, getting around and getting rid of pictures, kind of like Batman that way, that nobody's sure if she's real or not. And it's like, that's fine. Like, I thought that was pretty clever. But after that scene, you don't see Wonder Woman. I mean, like, the whole outfit, the bracelets, everything. You don't see her until 1:20 into the movie. 1:20, because they are setting up so many other things and giving you so much information and trying, to their credit, to set up a bunch of relationships with everybody. With Chris Pine, with, I think it was Maxwell Lord is the name of the villain in this, with Cheetah in this too. And they're not you know, it's not like, oh, why didn't you go more into that? It's like, no, I get it. You're trying to throw too much at us. And I give credit that they're trying to show the connections that she makes with all these characters, but it's just too much. I feel like this movie really could have worked if you cut out the Cheetah character. If you just made it about this Dreamstone, maybe turn again, I don't know what this villain is like in the comics, if he's even from the comics, I don't know. But I feel like if this is kind of like in the last movie, like if this is your big threat, like this doesn't feel very comic booky. I feel like at some point he should mutate into something cool. Even the friggin' bad guy in the last Wonder Woman, in the first Wonder Woman movie, I mean, yeah, you had Dr. Poison, she was cool, you know, but I mean, like, the main baddie at least tries to look intimidating by the end. Yeah, he was kind of laughable, but he tries to get the armor and everything and look big and buff. It's like, it felt comic booky, where this one, the plan feels comic booky, but he's just in this stupid, lame suit the whole time, you know, like this very tacky looking suit, like it's supposed to look ridiculous. I'm waiting for him to transform, and he doesn't. So I feel like if they kind of worked on that a little bit more, even the jet, like they use it to get, you know, one or two places, and then it's kind of forgotten about. Even Cheetah is kind of forgotten about by the end of this. And it's one of those things where when you finally get to the end, I'm like, man, I mean, they threw a lot at you, but I feel like I should be like, what a grand adventure, well, what a grand message, what just an epic sequel, you know, and the winged outfit, and coming back in, and the jet, and her flying, and all this stuff, and I just felt like, man, you just need to knock out, like, 3 of those, and tell the rest of the story exactly as it was. But as is, it is way too much, and the tone is kind of all over the place. Now, with that said, when they get the tone right, they really do get it right. And when Gal Gadot really does want to, you know, when she wants to be funny, she can be very funny. When she wants to be emotional, she can be very emotional. But yeah, those few moments, I don't know if it was direction or just they were in a rush or maybe she didn't comprehend the scene. I don't know, but there's several moments where it just did not look like she was feeling what she was saying, if that makes sense. Like I said, there are some scenes where she should just sound destroyed or sound desperate or just, you know, even with some of the funnier moments, I mean, it should be a little bit more lighthearted, but it just kind of sounds like she's, you know, like, yeah, I'm acting, I'm in it. Cool. When they should be like a much bigger scene. It should be like, they should be much bigger scenes. But what I do like about it, I do really like, even though he can be cartoony, I did really like the Maxwell Lord performance in this. I do really like the character. I like how far it goes. I like as soon as you see the first thing he does with the with this Dreamstone thing, I like you sort of think, whoa, what can be done with this? And they do it. I mean, they just go all the way that they can with this, even to a point where when you're like, well, he wouldn't care about that. I mean, this guy would get so lost in his head, but even some of the wishes tie into, you know, like what brings him, you know, what again, I don't want to get into spoilers, but I guess just what ultimately is his downfall, I should say. Big shock, the villain is defeated. I don't think that's too much a spoiler. But yeah, I just feel like they really were throwing way too much at you, but the moments that work are effective and are funny sometimes. Other times not. Like for example, there's so Chris Pine is back as the same character, and you're watching it thinking like, well, it'd be fun to see how he interacts off certain things. Like when he sees, you know, jets for the first time, he's like, wow, and he's like touching it, like, holy smokes. That's something he would get excited for. And there's another point where he points at, there's like a NASA building nearby. He points, he's like, is that a plane? And she's like, let me show you something. And she takes him to the place and he's just looking around like, whoa, like, that feels right. clothes montages of, well, what do you think of this? Well, does this work? Oh, come on, let me keep the shoes. Him looking at an escalator going, whoa, ho, ho, ho. It's way too much. It is way too zany. Kristen Wiig works just enough. I mean, you know, she's a comedian. I mean, she knows how to make stuff pretty funny. And again, her descent into sort of becoming the villain is not bad. It could just be so much more explored. And I feel like just a whole movie around her being the villain would be great. But she has to share it a lot with this other story that's really, really good. And clearly is like the focus. I don't know if they introduced her in this and like maybe played around with it and then built up, well, she'll be the villain in the next one, you know, something like that. Maybe that could have worked, but yeah, this just had it just has Spider-Man 4 vibe, you know, in the best and worst ways, because it does feel like, you know, oh, okay, well, it's lighthearted, it's upbeat, you know, DC movies have gotten a lot of flack for being, you know, a bit too mean and dark and stuff like that, when it doesn't need to be, you know. Now they're balancing out better with, like, Shazam and Joker and stuff like that, but this one just, down to the point where they'll just kind of throw in, like, well, here's the villain you're looking for, you know, there's Venom from Spider-Man 3, like, they kind of do that, you know, with her character, so, yeah, I don't know, like I said, the action is really good, just the opening, seeing them do, like, this America Ninja Challenge, Warrior Challenge, back on the island there, which is so much fun to watch, and it looked cool. It's a very vibrant looking movie. It's a very pretty movie. The action sequences, again, when you actually see her as Wonder Woman, are pretty cool. But yeah, the moments where I think you're, and I was invested enough, but the moments where I think you're supposed to really, really be in the movie, you're supposed to be cheering, you're supposed to be like in the first movie, like, you know, when she goes on that battlefield, I feel like there's a couple moments where they're trying to make something like that, and it does not click like that, but it still has some cool stuff to say, and some, you know, interesting stuff to explore, but there's so much more that could have and should have been explored, probably in another movie, but now it's like, we said it here, it's a, you know, a sideline, boom, now we did it, you know, invisible jet, now we never have to talk about that anymore, you know, she can fly, now we never have to talk about that anymore, and I feel like there should have been just an entire movie about that. Like, I feel like this movie should have been about the Dreamstone, and, you know, and Chris Pine being there, and her connection, you know, with him, you know, maybe the jet, and that's it, you know, fighting this villain. And then the next movie should have been about Cheetah, should have been about her flying, should have been about some of the other powers she can do, it should have been about this armor. Like, this should have been two movies. They should have been split up. And these ideas, which are good ideas, should have been explored a lot more. But with that said, they are good ideas, and they are cool ideas, and it is still a comic book movie. So, I'm barely recommending it. I know it's not like a glowing review, but the stuff I saw, I'm glad I saw. I thought it was interesting, but yeah, it just, some stuff needed to be cut out of this and saved for other movies, because it's unlikely, like, oh, this is what, they're just gonna stop Wonder Woman? I mean, like, one of the well, they're stopping other DC movies, who knows? Maybe they're just like, this might be the last one, so fit it all in there. But I don't know. I feel like they should have really focused on just 3 of these really good ideas instead of like 10 that are in this movie. So, again, I'm literally recording this the night of Christmas, so, but I really did want to see this movie. I just wanted to get my thoughts out right after I saw it. So, what did you think if you saw it? I get a feeling there's gonna be a lot of people that don't like a lot of things in this movie, and they're kind of right, you know, like it's understandable, I should say, that there's stuff that I'm just like, oh man, these missed opportunities because they weren't explored. But I can definitely see people liking it too, just for, you know, again, a comic book movie that has some depth, has a lot of creativity. Just the way she even moves in this movie, like the first action sequence she has. I mean, she just glides through so many of these scenes. It's almost like she's skating, you know, through on the floors there and using the lasso and how she moves, and just watching that is so cool. And I thought that was just like such a neat way to show like how this, you know, this hero moves. I mean, you saw in the first film and some of her other films, but I really feel like they got the movement of her fighting down in this, and what she can do with the lasso and the other cool moves. She even uses like the headband kind of as a little what am I looking for? Boomerang thing. I almost said bangerang. God, sorry. It's Christmas. My mind is other places. So there's a lot that I really did enjoy, and like I said, I enjoyed it just enough. Did you? Or was it simply too much, and was it just a few too many things that didn't quite add up? I was actually I thought there was going to be a lot more things that didn't add up. Don't get me wrong, there are. I'm not gonna say there are. I don't know. I feel like this would be an interesting Nostalgia Critic review, because you could just go scene by scene, pointing out what works and what doesn't. I mean, there's just, every scene is just loaded with stuff that you can analyze the hell out of. But in a good way, like I said. I mean, like what works and what doesn't, what's growing the character in the story and what's taking away from it. But majority of the ideas in this are good. And I'm shocked as many worked as they did, but it is super long and it is too much and it doesn't all click, sadly. But for what worked, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad, especially watching it for free. I mean, I already had HBO Max, and, you know, I didn't even have to leave the house. I mean, how angry can I be? But, yeah, let me know what you thought. Did you feel like it was just as good as the first one? It really came through? Did you feel it was lacking in some parts and it was just okay? Or did you feel it just totally destroyed it? It just did not work at all. I love to know your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think about that. Because, yeah, I mean, I'm literally seeing it the day it came out, so I don't know what the feedback is or anything like that. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you next time. Take care.